Do you ever get confused with Equaliser War or any war in general? Which heroes do I need to take? Why do I need to change my defense from last week to this week, from this war to that war? Is it all just too much? Are you going crazy? Or is that just me? If you need the answers to those or any of life's other humongous questions that nobody knows the answers to, stick around. I'll talk through my own defense team for Equaliser and give you some little tips to try and pick the best heroes in your roster to get the job done. Let's take a look at the War Equaliser information. All heroes are supported by War Equaliser in this Alliance War. War Equaliser removes all status effects and stacks from all heroes. This includes Ghost. This war support is activated every 3 turns. So every 3 turns, any buffs, ailments, stacks, etc. are going to be removed with the exception of Growth and Wither. So you've got to remember to get the timing right. If you are using any heroes that have those stacks or ailments, don't cast it right before they're about to be cleansed. Due to this, there's some obvious heroes that generally aren't going to perform as well in this type of war. Healers that heal over time, any sort of ailment that does damage over time, anything like that. Whilst it can still be useful, it won't be quite as useful depending on when your hero is ready to go off, as it will most likely be removed before it gets its full effect. So one of the worst type are the healers who heal over time. You have no control over when your defense is going to fire, so it's very risky to take that sort of healer, as you're generally not going to get the benefits. We'll have a look at my defense now, and then I'll go over some little tips in general. We can see here Costume Jiao-Chan. We know she's a pain in the butt, so she's going straight in at tank. Now I have heroes who have the effects that give damage upon removal. So we can see Star Walker here. We're giving a hit to all. Boosted health is quite prevalent as well in Equaliser. So that's another thing where Star Walker may then just give a bit of extra damage. But the main part is all enemies are getting minus 35 defense for 3 turns. If the effect is removed before the duration ends, the target with the effect suffers 804 damage. So these types of heroes, if you have them, are absolutely amazing in Equaliser War, because we know that that ailment is going to be removed and it's going to inflict 804 damage on everyone in the enemy team that ends up with that ailment. So we have a similar heroes here with Erlang Sheng, who does the same with an attack debuff. And then again, we can see if it's removed before the duration ends, it's 678 damage. And we also have Pepper Flame, who is giving 777 damage when the defense down that she applies is removed. So those types of heroes are absolutely clutch. If you have those heroes, I would suggest putting them in. The other hero I've got here is Shimmer Scale, who has the Mega Minion. So obviously minions and fiends aren't removed. So any minion and or fiend summoner is going to be as useful as other wars, unless they also have some sort of ability tied to that. So such as a minion that provides counterattack, that is going to be removed when the Equaliser goes off. Shimmer Scale's Mega Minion will keep hitting, it will keep applying the bleed, but obviously the bleed will get taken off when Equaliser goes, but as soon as that minion hits again, it will apply the bleed again. So that's still quite a useful hero, plus he's there to stop the Wither if anyone's using that against my Costume Jiao-Chan. So that's a quick summary of my team. Now in general, as I've mentioned, you don't want to be going with heroes whose main ability is tied to a buff or ailment or stack. Having said that, if those heroes are still better than other heroes on your team, then don't completely discount them just because it's Equaliser. I'm just going to jump into my heroes here and have a look at a few heroes so we can sort of discuss a little bit. You know, someone I used to use a lot as my tank was Hawthorne, and once I can find him, as you can never find them when you want. So we can see here he's regenerating boosted health. We're giving him moderate amount of mana over 4 turns, and we're reflecting status ailments for 4 turns. So his whole skills are based on having those buffs. So if he happens to fire and then Equaliser goes off, he's absolutely useless. But if he's going off with a couple of turns, he can still be a huge advantage to your team. What I mean by not discounting him is if you're running purple tanks or whatever color tank, and your next best hero is just trash, So say my only other purple was going to be something like, you know, Lubu, who's slow, he's not fantastic, I don't even have him emblemed, no LB and that type of thing. Don't discount someone like a Hawthorn or whoever's in your roster that's similar, that's using those buffs. Don't discount them just because it's Equaliser. I had a saying that I used to use a little while ago, which was a good defense is a good defense. You've got to keep in mind that Equaliser is going to make some of these heroes not as useful as they would have been. However, they can still be more useful than throwing in heroes just because they're big hitters or they don't have any buffs. Keep that in mind when picking your defense. Try to choose heroes that have good skills but aren't fully relying on those buffs and those sort of things. You know, Mina's a prime example. Yes, she has a bit of a hit, 390 to the target, minor damage to nearby, but the main part of her move are the fluff volleys. If she goes off and gets equalised, she's really no better than, you know, an older hit 3 hero, someone like El Nadahar, who's hitting 305 to the target and nearby enemies. So pick your heroes based on the war type. In the Equaliser, obviously the ones that do the damage upon removal, as we've already mentioned a few, they are absolute clutch. It's a great war type to be using Toons. One there, we know they hardly get ailments on them anyway, but obviously because they have such large damage, the Equaliser war just makes it harder to look after your team. It makes it harder to whittle the enemy down, so it generally does take a little bit longer. So anyone that's going to be doing huge damage, they're fantastic because, as we know, some of those Toons can just kill people in one hit. So great place to use your Toons if you're not using them already in other places. Fiend summoners, minion summoners, but again, it's really just fully understanding your heroes, and that's where it's very difficult without knowing everyone's roster. But keep in mind those types of characters. A hero like Lazara, who can safely cleanse those ailments, because the attacking teams are going to be bringing those heroes that give you damage upon cleansing as well. So someone like a Lazara can be huge. We have Vanya, who, even though he's slow, his minion can safely cleanse those status ailments. Any of the Insanity heroes, as Insanity is not removed. So that's another great type of hero you can have, even though they are quite unpredictable. But there we have it. Again, without knowing your roster, it's extremely hard, but hopefully these tips have just helped you realize that there may be other people on your roster you can use, or that just because it's an Equaliser war, it doesn't mean you have to remove heroes that have buffs or ailments. They can still be extremely useful, even if you're not getting 100% full value out of them. Hope that helps. Best of luck in war, and keep an eye out for my war hits. Gently caress that subscribe button, give your kitty a scritch for me, and have a good one.